Good morning, everyone. My name is Yiren. Today, my topic of the presentation is that should Tibet become an independent state? I don't know whether you have noticed that once you come into the NIS building on the first floor, you will see a photo showing the visit of the Dalai Lama on the wall. Actually, Dalai Lama is a very controversial and negative figure inside China because he pursues the independence of Tibet, while Chinese people think that Tibet is always an integral part of China. But in the international community, people tend to think that Tibet should be an independent state because of a lot of reasons. Today, I'd like to talk about a concise history of Tibet and the 14th Dalai Lama. Then I would discuss if Tibet satisfies the criteria to exercise the right to enjoy secession from China within the international law framework. In the end, I will give a conclusion based on the above discussion. First of all, let's look at a map of Tibet. We can see that Tibet is in the western part of China. It's next to India, Nepal, Bhutan, and other countries. Tibet is the highest region on the earth, so it's called the roof of the world, with an average height of 4,900 meters. Now let's look at the history of politics of Tibet. If we dig back to long ago, sometimes Tibet was a part of China, for example, in the Yuan dynasty and in the Qing dynasty. But sometimes Tibet was an independent state. The reason why Tibet issue is so controversial now lies in an event occurring in 1950. Actually, there are two interpretations of the 1950 event. From the perspective of China, in 1950, the Chinese central government notified the Tibetan local authority to go to Beijing to negotiate with Chinese leaders about the peaceful liberation of Tibet. But Tibetan authorities refused, and they deployed army in Tibet in preparation for resistance. In the end, the Chinese government said they were left with no choice but to order the Liberation Army of China to enter Tibet and liberate Tibet. But in the Tibetan people's views, it was a intrusion of China to Tibet. It's also agreed by many foreigners till now. After the entrance of Chinese troops into Tibet, in the following year, that is 1951, the local Tibetan government signed an agreement with Chinese central government, that is a 7-article agreement. The agreement claimed that Tibet is an autonomous region of China, and China enjoys full sovereignty over Tibet. The agreement also endowed the Tibetan local government with a high level of self-governing right. For example, the local political regime would not be changed, the power of Dalai Lama would not be changed, and the Tibetan people would have much freedom to exercise the religious activities and so on. At that time, Dalai Lama made a public statement accepting the agreement. interestingly, after that, Dalai Lama became a very important member of Chinese political regime. For example, he was elected as the vice chairman of the Standing Committee of the First National People's Congress of China, and he often spoke. He often spoke highly of the chairman Mao and the agreement they signed in 1951. Um, but something happened in 1959. There is a funny fact that in 1939, the then Chinese government, publicly financed the ceremony that he was officially recognized as the 14th Dalai Lama. And the Dalai Lama also received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1989. So what was happening in 1959? There are also two interpretations from the perspective of China. Because in 1959, the Chinese government wanted to conduct a comprehensive reform in Tibet, especially to abolish the serfdom, that is the system of the agricultural slave. But this action and reform irritated the 14th Dalai Lama, so he organized an army uprising in Tibet. From the interpretation of Dalai Lama, he said that from 1951 to 1959, he was pretending to be compliant to Chinese government and to the agreement they signed. Actually, in his mind, he always thinks that Tibet should be an independent state. Consequently, the uprising happened in 1959 was dismissed by Chinese military. So after that, the 14th Dalai Lama fled to India, and in the international community, he often, publicly criticized the Chinese government and always calls for support from the international community to the independence of Tibet. Now, let's discuss some standards in the international law about the right to exercise external self-determination. The first criteria is that the entity should be defined as a people. As we all know that the Tibet is a very unique region. Tibetans have their unique religion, that is the Tibetan Buddhism. They have their unique culture, living styles, tradition, language. So it's definitely right that Tibetan is a people. The second criteria is the people in the region is under oppression. It's under oppression. The fact is that Dalai Lama always criticized the human rights situation in Tibet. He says the Chinese central government always oppressed Tibetan people, especially in the religious aspect. Also, the Human Rights Watch often publish some articles criticizing Tibetans' human rights situation. For example, the Human Rights Watch regards the detention and the prosecution of Tibetans under the China's stability maintenance campaign as relentless. But I would say that these measures and actions taken by Chinese central government are commonly used in many other regions. They are not specifically targeting Tibetan. So in my opinion, it's not a kind of oppression. because in many other places, the human rights are violated commonly in China. And people who have ever traveled to Tibet would not say that the people, the Tibetans are oppressed in the religion. And especially, we can see that the living standards in Tibet have developed a lot in recent years. So my conclusion is that Tibetans is a people, but they are not under oppression of the central government. So, according to international law, Tibet is not qualified to be an independent state. Thank you. I'm open for questions.
Question. To what extent do you think the religion in Tibet play an important factor of the stability or instability?
Actually, the religion, the Tibetan Buddhism, plays a very important in every aspect of Tibetans' lives. Actually, the religion itself does not cause disability in the society. I think the disability is caused by the religious leaders, especially the 14th Dalai Lama. And he uses his power and capacity to call for people to organize uprising or to reject the governance of Chinese government. I think it's not so related to the religion itself in terms of the stability.
Okay, we have to limit it to one question because the presentation went over.
One
But
more?
if there's time at the end, you can ask. And then you'll fix the problem with my computer.